Hello, everyone. This is Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritually Inspired Show. And my guest today is Beth Weinstein. As a spiritual business coach, Beth helps current and aspiring entrepreneurs, coaches, spiritual leaders, and healers align with their purpose and grow their business so they can help more people create consistent income and have a thriving business working on their terms from anywhere on earth. Using her experience growing multiple businesses, including 3 of her own, along with neuroscience-backed methodologies, spiritual teachings, and practical business action plans, Beth offers a multidimensional approach to help you move past limiting beliefs, overcome obstacles, and grow your business in a successful, impactful way. She guides you in a step-by-step process to grow your spiritually based business using a balanced, co-creative approach combining practical business coaching and heart-centered marketing strategies together with spiritually based mindset training and manifesting work. Beth is the founder of the Psychedelics, Sacred Medicine, and Purpose Conference, the producer of the annual True Path Entrepreneur Summit, and was co-creator of Urban Ceremony, a mind, music, body, spirit weekend together with musician East Forest. Beth has spoken on multiple stages, podcasts, and summits, and has been featured in New York Post, Huffington Post, and more. Beth, welcome to a Spiritually Inspired Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Beth, when and how did you start combining business and spirituality together?
Well, I kind of always did, I guess. So I've always been on a pretty deep spiritual path, and, I help people start and grow their businesses. And to me, you really have to bring your full self to your business. And so I always just brought my full self. And, I tend to work with people on very similar growth paths and help a lot of coaches, healers, transformational leaders start and grow their businesses. So, it's a lot of people who are feeling called to serve at a higher level, and those tend to be a lot of people on a very awakened path. So I figure it was just really, I have a lot of beliefs in, how to co-create with the universe, and I do believe in how to grow a business the right way, meaning there are tangible actions that you need to do on the earth plane, but I also believe in the co-creation with, the spirit and bringing your heart to everything you do, which tends to be more on a spiritual path. So, I pretty much from the beginning have always been on this. I just declared myself a spiritual business coach so I could separate myself from people who are maybe less of spiritual business coaches. So, because there's many out there that are kind of in a different paradigm of business. So, and I only work with people really on a very awakened path. So, yeah.
And I think spiritually business coach is a pretty much new concept. Not everyone is using it. And it came forward maybe in the last, 10, 15 years?
What, my spiritual business or just business coaching?
Spiritual business coaching in general.
Yeah, I don't know how long it's been around, but I know people have been helping people with their businesses for a long time. I think it's just, there's a larger spiritual awakening happening. And I think, it's just the form of communication we have now is just, it's so much easier to come out and communicate who you truly are. And it's also necessary. It's part of the path. So yeah, I guess you could say it's relatively new. I was already helping businesses, for many, many years before this, but maybe not calling myself spiritual, as a label. But again, back then it was always in me. It was just maybe not, out in the open as much. Does that make sense?
Yes. So sometimes we hold back on these type of labels because we think that the perception of what might be misinterpreted. So in time, we realize that we have to come out of the closet and, say out loud, I am who I am, and, do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I watch most of the videos in your Psychedelic, Sacred Medicine, and Purpose Summit, and were quite interesting. How did you come up with this idea, and how did the speakers react when you reach out to them?
So I didn't really come up with the idea. It actually just came through me to me. So I had already done similar online conferences or online summits, you know, in interview series for many years around entrepreneurship, spiritual entrepreneurship. And, you know, I've been on what I call the sacred medicine path for, I don't know, a long time. I've been working with psilocybin and other psychedelics since I was a kid, almost 30, like over 30 years now. Mm-hmm. And then I've been working with other deeper plant medicines for about 7-8 years. And it kind of just started coming to me. You know, I guess, you know, I do believe a lot of this happens through just pure alignment. I had noticed that I was already attracting clients who were on the medicine path, and that was people who I didn't even know. And I don't know, you know, essentially I don't really know how they found me. But what I noticed, I think they were attracted to me because I started talking about it a little more openly. And I think when you're already on that path, like you want to work with people who understand it, because it's, you know, it can be a very deep path, and it, you know, it's kind of, you know, the integration of it into your purpose and your business. And, you know, I'd worked with a client who lived in Australia who was on this path and was working with ayahuasca and many, many years ago. And I started to realize how much it was enjoyable for both me and her, and how nice it was to be able to bring information that came through the sacred medicine work and bring it into business, bring it into your purpose. So I don't know, the medicine actually just started showing it to me many years before I launched it, and it kind of kept giving me this idea, and I was like, well, I can't do that because it's, you know, there's some, you know, it's like taboo and it's illegal, and I don't want to put myself in jeopardy, and I don't want to put anyone else in jeopardy, and it's, you know, it's not something people talk very openly about, and this was years ago. But then it just kept telling me the same thing over and over and over. And then I started talking about it with some people and my own business coach. And I had mentioned this idea, and I was like, you know, that like, I really love working with people on the same path as me, because I know how much can come through when you're working with these, especially on a very deep level, like going to Peru every year or working very regularly. And so I kind of just, you know, like I couldn't deny it any longer. And I had the vision, and it was actually supposed to be a little different, the vision, but that original vision is not gone. And yeah, and honestly, I actually knew a lot of those speakers from just over the years. A few of them were actually good friends of mine. A few I had actually done collaborations with before. You know, some I just knew through other people. Like, you know, I've always seen the medicine community is very interconnected and very, it's not small, but it's tight. You know, it's like there's a bond, I think, on a different level. And so when I came up with the idea, I asked a bunch of people, and then I asked some people I didn't know, and that was that. And some said yes, some said no, and voila, it came about.
And you intend to make it an annual event? Or it was one time? Yeah,
it'll probably be annual. I don't know if it'll have the exact title or not. I haven't decided that. You know, I'm working on something new right now, and I'm not quite sure what it looks like, but it's coming through. But yeah, I do believe it's part of my soul's path to be speaking very publicly about this. And, you know, the clients that I work with, who are mostly, not all my clients, but majority are on this path, it's really nice to have that space to bring the visions, you know, the downloads, to bring it to something beyond just like feeling good. It's like, okay, what is my purpose? What am I doing with this? How am I gonna make decisions in my business? Or what am I here to do next? Or, you know, like, where's this misaligned, or where am I aligned? And it's like, it's amazing, because having clients like this, it feels like right to me. It feels great to them. It's like, I don't know many people doing this yet. I'm sure there will be. And I just feel like it was an important thing to start talking about, because I know there's a lot of people going deep into this work and then not having an outlet for integrating it into your actual life. And to me, if you're not integrating it into your actual life, there's really not a point of doing it. Like, it's not just to make you feel good, or not just to make you heal the past. It's about, like, how are you going to show up on this planet? You know, what are you going to serve? Like, how are you going to serve? Because to me, the healing journey actually coincides with the service journey. And it's not, you know, we're not all here in ego to self and healing our lineage and healing our traumas, but also in healing the greater collective. It's a larger scale picture. So to me, it's a journey of serving yourself and serving others. But, you know, that's my opinion. Not everybody feels that way. So
I completely agree with the fact that integration is a big component of after the fact, you know, after you go to the ceremony and you get your messages. And again, Spiritually Inspired Show is a result of one of these messages I got on one of my ceremonies. So I understand that, and I appreciate the fact that you have to have an integration component in your journey. And because Peru, I know that every ceremony can be transformative, but can you mention one or two which were really, really powerful for you?
Oh my God, there's so many. Yeah, there's one that I've referred to many times. I actually was just telling my friend, because she was part of the vision. I've had this thing where I've gotten a lot of visions of my friends for many years. Because this is part of my natural path. I've always been very good at seeing people's businesses way before they see it. Like even my own boyfriend, I love the guy. Even today, at one point, he said to me, you know, I'm thinking of doing this in my business. And it's something I literally have written down in a journal from 2 years ago. Because I saw it far in advance. So I had this vision, I think it was in 2016. I think it was 2016. So I do work with medicine all over the planet, but I do go to Peru every year. Hopefully this year. I haven't heard yet, but it's not until August, so we'll see. But so I had this in 2016. I was in Peru and I was in the jungle, and I think it was actually my very last ceremony after a whole traditional dieta. And the dieta I do is extremely traditional. It's like very strict diet and very, you know, like we're in the middle of nowhere, like 4 hours away from a city. And, you know, it's the person I work with is very like rigid, you know, there's no hot water, there's no running water, there's no electricity, there's nothing. And so it was very intense, and it was my first time going there. And I think that was, I don't know, I don't remember if this was that year or a different year. But I remember it was like towards the end, it was the last day, and I had this vision, and it's hard to put it into words, but it was showing me my business. So I was actually in the process of running 2 businesses. So I used to have a different business that I just shut down like this year. So I was doing 2 things at once and kind of, you know, flowing with both and kind of not knowing how things looked, but also not caring. I was just doing what felt like the universe was just throwing at me, and I was responding. But then it showed me this vision, and it was this vision of like all these beautiful people who I knew, and there was no attachment to like the results of how it looked. And, you know, I've kind of never had attachments either to it. Sometimes, but not that many. But it was this vision about like just dancing around in the beauty of the earth and the planet, and like just showing up in my natural being and helping people get their gifts out there. So I have all these friends that are amazing musicians and healers and herbalists and, you know, spiritual teachers and people who like really have amazing gifts that to me the world needs on a larger scale. And to me, if you're, let's say, so one of the ways this business started many years ago was I had a friend who was an herbalist who is just super talented, grows her own everything, sells it all, makes her own concoctions. And she's such an amazing medicine woman. And she was really not making any money. And I was like, wow, why is she not making money? She's so gifted, and like people need this stuff. And she had some herbs that were like things you couldn't even find anywhere. So, you know, the vision I saw was like, well, if my mission is helping people with their gifts, like it was just showing me like my mission is about pushing like everybody else out there. Like like I show up, yes, but I am here to actually help everybody else show up more, you know, because the more people I can, you know, if I can help thousands of healers get out there to the world, like maybe we'll actually heal the world. It's a domino effect. So it showed me this interconnectedness, and it actually just showed me that it was fun. Like nothing else mattered. It was pure surrender to my deepest purpose. And so from that point forward, I actually just like took the path of pure surrender to like what sounded fun and to the intuition and to my purpose. And honestly, from that point forward, everything just took off. And it's not to say it's effortless, because I always tell people, look, growing a business can be really hard, but I have to say the energy in me completely shifted since that day forward, where the more I've just let go and the more I've, I'm very, like, I do believe in the co-creation. Like, I do the work, I show up, I put myself out there, but I let go of all the attachments and just keep going and just follow the heart, follow the heart, follow the heart. And the more I've done that, the more like money I've made, the more results I have, the more fun I have, the more free time I have. Like, it does become easy, and I've always surrounded myself with support. Like, I've always had a coach. I've always had, some kind of a, somatic therapist or, integration healers, people who are supporting this journey, because I do believe everybody needs support. And the more I just go with that, it's like everything's just amazing. And of course there's challenges. I don't mean to like BS people, but so that vision is probably one of the most powerful I've had, because it's affected so much of my life. I mean, I've definitely had some other really, 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 really deep places, but this one was just so like, it was very 3-dimensional. Like, it just showed me life. And I was like, oh, that's actually easy. Why don't I try that? Bam. But of course I've had the other visions that have shown me, the illusion of the entire universe. Like, that's pretty heavy stuff that is, our brains cannot even grasp that. But I saw it. I actually saw that during my very first ayahuasca ceremony. And I was like, now what? Wow. What do I do with that information? It just showed me nothingness of everything. And the human brain can't even process that, because we're like, we don't have that. So those have been powerful too, but it's the ones that have affected my everyday life that tend to just be, to me, the most powerful, because those are where we can actually make change and live a better life. Because what's the point of being alive if we're not living an amazing life to the fullest, So.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's the tangible things or the messages we receive, and we have to act on those. And again, it happened to me, and I got so much confidence, and I said, no matter what, I'm going to act on it. And it was beautiful. It came out amazingly positive, and moving forward, I have no doubt not to surrender and then apply the message I'm going to receive. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
Exactly. Awesome.
You spent time with indigenous people while in Peru and other parts of the world. What do you think that the civilized society can learn from these people, from indigenous people, and from the tribes?
Well, it's interesting. It's come up a lot lately, because we're doing this interview in the middle of, I'm still in lockdown, even though I'm living out in the country, thank God. But it's come up a lot recently, because I probably like a lot of medicine people kind of knew there was this shift coming, and I do believe it's still coming, and I believe we're just going to go more and more back to, I believe in the cycles of life, right? And I believe we're in a cycle of coming back to the ancient ways, like the life of simplicity, the life of, living off the earth. And here's the thing. I'm the first to admit, I love having money. I love modern technology. I have things, right? Like, so I still live in 3D, and I do believe that, even though I'm in 5D, I'm also in 3D. So I'm not like totally fluff, but I do believe we are in complete imbalance with the way we live, in harmony with the planet. And that's actually one of my, it's part of my big mission too, is like, the more people I help to get in tune with their alignment, meaning like, here's your soul, here's your purpose, here's what you've come here to do, whether it's an artist or a doctor or a coach or a healer, it doesn't matter. But the more you are living in harmony with yourself, it's like everything around you starts to live in harmony. And one of the things that I find, working with these ancient medicines and working with the people, and also just, of course, these medicines open up this part of our ancient memory that's like, wait a second, like we are just another animal inhabiting the planet, and we need to start acting like that. Like, this is our resource. This is what's keeping us alive. The planet, the sun, the sacred waters. And I do believe, this, what we're in right now, I hope, this is my biggest prayer right now, is that a lot of the awakeness is going to come out of this. Like people waking up and saying, well, hey, I don't even have a job, or I have no work and I have no money and things are completely whacked. So maybe I should start growing my own food. Oh, wait a second. Maybe there is a way to live a more simple life. Maybe we don't need to constantly be buying a bunch of crap just to buy things, or maybe we don't need to just sit on our butt and consume, because this is, again, this is where I believe there's been this, patriarchal rule for centuries that has been completely out of balance with the truth of who we are as humans and who we are as, just the freedom of humanity. And we've been essentially enslaved into so many systems that are broken. And so I do believe what's happening, and I know a lot of people who are extremely awake, and especially medicine people, knew the day that this all went down was like, oh yeah, this is the beginning of the crumbling of the system, which was predicted to come right about now anyways, and we don't know how long this is going to last or how quick it's going to be, or, who knows. And to my prayer is that it's like, I want to witness this shift in my lifetime. I would love to see the complete shift. But I do believe, this is why the medicine has been so exponentially growing over the years and become so popular, is it's in our DNA, it's in our gene, it's in our bodies, this ancient memory that's like, hello, we are living out of balance. We need to start actually waking up and making changes, or else we're actually going to destroy ourselves and the planet and every species on it, which would be unfortunate. But, it's like, there needs to be something like a global pandemic to have people wake up and realize like something's out of balance. And so the more you turn to indigenous cultures, ancient ways, understanding, the ways of our ancestors and the ways of the simplicity of life, and then it could actually be very different. And again, I'm not about like, oh, just shun it all, but I'm also about like living in balance, and I find what's really funny is, in me and all of my friends around me, the more abundance you have, like the less you want, and that's the irony of it all. It's like, now I actually, like, all these people that are aware and awake and conscious, like some of my good friends are extremely wealthy. And it's like, okay, when you have that wealth, now they can actually start supporting causes to help the indigenous people, nonprofits that are actually doing good, giving water to those who need water, like providing, sustainable systems. Like one of my friends is actually a billionaire. I just remembered that today. I was like, oh, I forgot he's now a billionaire, because he was worth $3 billion back in January, maybe not now. But I was like, but it's interesting. He's putting a lot of resources into creating, more sustainable communities, buying up land and opening it up to other people, and like establishing sustainable farming practices. Like I could go on. And this is where I'm like, oh, this is what this is all about, is interconnectedness, like waking up humans and having them remember the simplicity of just like our connection to earth and spirit and the universe as a whole. Like that's all there is. The rest is pure. I mean, it's like, it's all illusion anyways, So it's come up a lot with the coronavirus, because I do think a lot of people are going to start questioning, like, what is money? What is work? What is it all about? Like, what is business? What is selling? What is consuming? Like, I'm all about like, okay, I will spend money. Like, I think people need to spend their money towards their awakening, towards their health, towards eating clean foods, towards growing a garden. But like, do we need to be buying a bunch of crap from, Amazon every day just because it's cheap, and then throwing it away and putting it in landfill? No. So I think it's all like, that's what a huge part of this medicine journey and the indigenous cultures is all about, is like waking up our ancient ways of like living in more harmony in so many ways, harmony with spirit, harmony with yourself. So I hope that resonates.
Yes, and I'm a big proponent of the fact that not only increased awareness and consciousness can take us to and through this shift. And of course, we have to have this reset in terms of stopping pillaging the earth, connecting more with Mother Nature. The indigenous people cry when they see someone like the Brazilian president going through the Amazonian forest and, not caring about the environment and giving permits to more loggers and, oil and gas producers. So hopefully all this will come to a halt now, and we'll be able to rebuild and do the reforestation programs and be more kind with Mother Earth. Yes.
Yeah.
I listened to your interview with Tricia Isman. As part of the package.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting because she mentioned that some of her clients were politicians, and I like your reaction. And a question which I don't ask, or I ask only a few of my guests. Do you think it would be mandatory or should be mandatory for politicians to go through at least one plant ceremony before they their political?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I as much as I would love the whole entire world to experience it, I'm not sure everybody can handle it. I think they would need prep and integration work. I would love it if they did. Here's the thing. I'm also, I do believe like the medicine is amazing. I always see it as the cherry on top, but I do believe it's in our daily practice. It's, it's available to us without any medicine. Like if medicine was gone tomorrow, I'd be okay. I would miss it, but I would be fine, and I do believe my biggest faith is I keep having faith in the global shift, as in there's a force way beyond us that's causing us to wake up, like even so I've considered myself spiritually awake from the age of like 7, 8, because I remember when I actually had my first, like experience. But I do remember, like different points in time, and then a huge shift in 2011 when a lot of people experienced a big shift. And this is happening more and more and more. And I look back and I'm like, well, there was nothing that caused that. It just happened, right? It was, there were things in my life and this and that, but then it's an energy beyond us. So I have this feeling, and I know because I actually, when she said that, I remember I was like, I actually was on a dieta with someone who's I've been on dieta with a few people involved in like Washington, DC, like not politicians, but involved in things related to politics. And I'm like, okay, the fact that there's some people, and and again, it's like, I know big entrepreneurs doing it. I know, people in the healthcare. I know people who are in the systems. And if they're being woken up, then I do believe that it's actually okay if the politicians don't do it, but everybody around them is infiltrating the system. And it's not just medicine people, it's awake people, right? Because it's medicine, meditation, spiritual path, whatever it is that gets you there. And I have some faith that there's something that they're not going to be able to avoid. It's like you almost can't avoid it. Maybe not everybody's going to get there, but so I don't know. I mean, mandatory, like, yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to see what would happen. Like I think it would need more than one experience as well. And here's the thing is, I mean, I have seen this happen. There are many people that go do all this work that have totally none of the exact visuals that we have, right? Like they have maybe like completely different, like ego-based visions. It happens all the time. I mean, it's like the people that drink ayahuasca once and say, oh, I've been called to be a shaman. It's like, I don't know. Is that true or is that pure ego? I have no idea. I'm not to judge, but it's, so we don't know, like Trump. And by the way, I have nothing against Trump. Like I really try not to judge any politicians because we don't know who's right or wrong, right? But let's say Trump goes and drinks ayahuasca 10 times. We don't know. He could just, all of his downloads could be about like, I don't know, how to put up bigger fences on the borders. Like we have no idea if he's going to just get the downloads that we get. I think, I've never asked people this, but I do know some people who've never experienced some of the experiences I've had. I'm like, how is that possible? But then I feel like if you're awake to it already, it's going to come through bigger. If you're shut down, or if you're so stuck in your trauma or your stuff or your ego, then it might actually just give you more ego. Like my partner is a body-based therapist. He does this form of work called core energetics therapy. It's a form of psychotherapy. And he said that a lot of people who have certain, you know, like maybe undiagnosed disorders or certain imbalances, you know, these medicines can actually make them worse. And I've seen this happen. Like I've seen medicines make people worse, and it doesn't necessarily heal everybody. So I don't know, like who's to say, but I would love more and more people to, you know, just meditation, you know, it's like if every politician was forced to meditate every day, yeah, that would be a better thing to force.
Yeah.
You must meditate for 30 minutes before you go into any kind of Congress meeting or something.
Yeah, that's another good approach. These days are inundated by technology. What is your view of the spiritual use of technology?
Yeah, so again, this is like what I teach to my clients, and this is how I approach everything. So I believe everything needs to come in a balance. I love technology. I believe it's here for the spiritual awakening. I believe it's a gift. I mean, we have never had this opportunity to share information and be connected, even if it's not true connection. But to be connected in this way, it's never existed in the lifetime of this earth, right? And it's to me, I see this as part of evolution. This is just like our consciousness is expanding. Our consciousness is now expanding, including phones, computers, videos, technology, all these gifts. I do see them as gifts because now, you know, it's like now I can work with someone in Japan who is going through a spiritual awakening, who has no one to turn to. And this is, by the way, one of my past clients was Japanese and literally had no one to turn to because their society is still a little bit repressed and the information is a little more guarded. And, you know, just culturally, they're not as open, you know, especially as a woman. And so when I worked with her, I was like, wow, that's when it really hit me how important technology is. Because if she wasn't working with me, she would actually just be suffering, you know, like her journey before was like sickness, suffering, depression, anxiety, fear. And once she was able to get help, and then I've passed her on to other people I knew, you know, it's like now she's able to fully blossom into her true self and go through an awakening. And, you know, like if people don't have that support and they don't know what the hell is happening to them and they're just suffering, it's like, you know, like technology is a blessing because now someone, like I've used this example all the time. I can learn about, you know, years ago, I wanted to learn about DNA activation. And so I went and Googled, you know, like DNA activation, and there wasn't much information. I was like, well, let me look on YouTube. Let me look on Instagram and, you know, like podcasts. And I found like little bits and pieces. But now if I go search for the same thing, it's probably everywhere because now it's like the information has just grown like, you know, like mushrooms, like mycelium. So I love the use of technology. I think it's amazing. I do believe that we also need to come deeper into balance with it. So I have a 16-year-old in my life, and watching the 16-year-old like constantly connected it's been a little tough because she's, you know, and of course there's like rules about turning off the phone and computer at a certain time, but it's sometimes I think there's a level of like that's like a little unhealthy, where it's a disconnection. So I do believe, and again, I think that's something that's gonna come up very soon, especially right now when, you know, where I'm located, everybody's like only online. And I think people are starting to get online overwhelm and fatigue, where it's like, hey, we need to get outside. We need to go like be on the land and like get into harmony, go exercise, go for a walk, you know, like, so it's like everything in life needs to come into that balance point. Like that's where everything, you know, like that's the goal of life. Yeah. So yeah, but it's amazing, you know, and for you doing things like this, like right here in itself, it's amazing. Someone will see this and learn something and it'll help them on their path. So great gift.
I really enjoy it. Honestly, I really, really enjoy it. Let's go a little bit deeper into your courses and what you offer to business entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm a spiritual business coach. I'm deep on the medicine path. I help a lot of people on this path as well start and grow their businesses and do work that they really love. And the whole idea is most of my clients, a lot of them have jobs or some form of a career or even a business that is misaligned. So they started to feel like, you know what, I don't like this anymore. This isn't working. Maybe now they even lost their work. A couple of people I know lost their work. And they started feeling what I call like the calling, right? Like a calling towards something else, a calling towards what I would say is something more aligned with what your purpose is, your heart. You know, whether it's like, I feel like I want to help people, or I feel called to be a healer, or I feel like being a coach or an artist or a consultant or starting my own, whatever it is, clothing line. Like it really doesn't matter. But I help people really get into that state of alignment where it's like, okay, it's not just about figuring out what you want up here in the head. And it's not just about feeling it. Feeling it is necessary in the head. The brain is necessary as well. But it's about bringing it into action, like being, tangible form. Because the thing is, and a lot of my clients come to me where they're like, I've been thinking of doing this for years and years and years, or I've started it like this much, but then they're not making money and they're suffering, or they haven't figured it out. You know, like they've tried coaching people for 5 years, but they haven't made any money from it. And it's like, well, you're here to be supported on your journey. Like if you are meant to be doing this, if this is your soul's purpose, you will be supported. Because when you're in that divine alignment of what I believe is like the divine path of abundance, you know, when you line up with that, like abundance comes. It's actually very easy. And that's where there's something missing. So I help people figure out those missing pieces, which is getting grounded and getting structures and systems in place into your business. Everything I teach is very grounded in reality. I don't teach a bunch of bullshit. I don't teach fluff. I don't know if I can swear. But again, there's very simple ways of growing your business that cost no money that a lot of people just don't know about, or they think I have to go do this big thing, or I have to go start a podcast, or I must, like do this huge thing. And I'm like, no, actually it's much more simple. It's like stepping stones. So I teach a very simple step-by-step process, and it's all about staying in the present step. Because once you focus and get the support and do step by step by step, you actually start to get results. And I approach everything from this place of energy, right? Like if your energy is spread into 50 different places, doing a podcast and a program and a book and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and then maybe this and that and that and that, and you're doing like 50 different things, you end up getting no results. Like because your energy is just spread everywhere. But if you stay on this path of simplicity, of one thing at a time, and get the proper support to actually bring it into being, that's where the money starts coming in. That's where you're like, oh, I have a client, someone's paying me. And once you build to a point, then you can start expanding to all these other things. But I find what happens is right now, especially right now, like, things are like intense. It's a very noisy world. The internet, the blessing of technology is amazing. I love it. But it's also can be such a distraction where people are now being pulled in 20 different directions instead of really staying present and in tune into one simple step at a time. And what happens is people come to me and they're very frustrated. Like, I've tried all these 20 things and I haven't gotten anywhere. I'm like, well, it's because you actually, like, you need to get the support to take one simple step, not 20 different things, one thing. So that's what I help people do. And I have a variety of programs. So I have a group mastermind that runs once or twice a year. One of them just started. I'll probably open the second one August, September. I also do a short 7-week program that costs a lot less money. It's about how to start and get your first clients. It's very easy. I will never teach you things that are so advanced where now you need to spend $20,000. It's not about that. It's about like one simple step at a time. I also do private one-on-one coaching as well. So yeah, those are my main offerings. I have some little things probably coming up this year, but who knows? Right now, this is it.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a concept which is very dear to me. I wrote about it in my book, Water Entanglement. And I mentioned there that, women are the water keepers and knowledge keepers of their tribe. And, over the centuries, the church tried to suppress the woman in a central figure in religion. But the sacred feminine surfaces now and then. What's your take on this concept?
Wow, yeah. Oh, we could do a whole 2 hours on this. Yeah, I mean, again, I do believe, and I'm trying to okay, I know this is medicine path. People are very awake to this. I've also been very involved in women's groups for very, long time. But I do believe that there's a shift, and I do believe the sacred feminine is more with us and apparent than ever. And again, this is why getting into divine alignment is so important, because the feminine, when you're in balance with the masculine and feminine energies of the world, that's where it actually becomes co-creation, meaning like things manifest easier. Like I have experienced the rise of the feminine stronger the last few years than ever. Like it's so apparent to me, you know, it's like it's around us everywhere. So I think the more people wake up to this concept of, you know, we've been in balance in so many ways, you know, the masculine, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with the masculine because we need both, like everything, we need both. I always, you know, it's like, it's literally the nature of creation, right? It's you need the masculine, you need the feminine. It doesn't mean that we have more or one's better or whatever. It just means our way of life as humanity on this earth has been very out of balance for so long, because it's, you know, again, there's ancient history, there's a series of events, there's religion, you know, we can talk about all this other suppression of information, also, you know, the truth about our own power. Like this is, and it's in all men as well. It's men and women. The power of our own creation, the power of our body, the power of our own, you know, our energy body, our waters, you know, like I could go on. And part of the suppression is about keeping us, you know, imprisoned in shackles in some way, and not allowing humanity to actually know the truth of our own inner power, which is we can create anything we want, period. Like everything we ever want in life is available to all of us. Like we can all be multimillionaires if we actually want to be. It's available, you know, and it's like when you tune in and you start to see the truth in the divine feminine, and in the fact that we have the power of creation, and you actually get past all of your stuff, meaning like your blocks, your fears, your limiting beliefs, your doubts, all these, you know, these channels inside your body that have been blocked. And also the programming, this is where the masculine comes in. Our society has been programmed, you know, and again, like I do believe that people maybe in our age range, like are more programmed, because the kids that I'm surrounded by, like the young kids, the teenagers, the 10-year-olds, they seem to have less programming, you know, and I do believe that's part of the spiritual evolution that we're on. But the people who've had this programming, and it's been programmed into generations, like I've done, probably like you, like a lot of depth of ancestral healing, and I've seen, like, even in my own lineage, I'm like, man, this goes back so far. It's like the programming of, you know, like the way of being, you know, and and not to say it's all because of the masculine, but it's a system that was kept in place, you know, to keep us from living our best lives. You know, it's a form of control. So this comes through in so many different forms. Yes, like, you know, like I can talk forever about, you know, like ecological disasters and man versus the planet, and, you know, like even the fight for water. Like I have not read your book. I'm actually afraid to read it, but I do believe, and I have said this for years, and my prayers is we never see this day, but I do believe the biggest war on this earth is going to be caused by the fight for water. And I don't ever want to see that in my lifetime. And I pray to the waters. Every time I drink, I say a prayer. Like I actually preach this, and I talk about it in a lot of my webinars. I'm like, you guys, every time you drink water, give gratitude and say your prayers, because this is some of the most powerful healing substance on this planet. Like forget ayahuasca, this is a real healer. So the more we can actually honor the water and recognize it and realize that this is life. This is literally what keeps us alive. If we don't have this, we all die. We go extinct as a species. So the more we have this awareness and speak about it, and actually, I do believe in the power of saying the prayers, saying the gratitude, having the intention, and also standing up for what you believe in. You know, it's like, if, you know, like what went down in Standing Rock in the US a few years ago, it was like, you know, like that was very significant. And there's probably going to be so many more incidents where we need to do that. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's all the same representation of the same thing. It's the imbalance of the masculine and feminine, and whether it's, you know, like work and slavery or water or, you know, like suppression of knowledge. I mean, it's all the same thing, and it's all coming from that imbalance. So I think that just the more people can actually start to research this and talk about it and get in tune, you know, like for me, what did it for me is that, you know, I started going to women's groups and women's retreats, women's ceremonies. And I just, you know, at first I was a little like, I don't know, I'm still skeptical of all this stuff. But then I just started, it was like it's in my bones. It's in all of our DNA. I was like, wow, something is wrong. You know, like something is imbalanced, and it is time to come back into the balance of both the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. And, you know, the more of that work that you do, and the more, you know, like, of course, medicine work it shows you this on a regular basis. The more you start to see it like all around, and you see like the representation of like, wow, like this is how it's out of balance, and here's what I can do on my part to bring it into balance. And it's like, if every human on this planet just took that exact approach, each and every one of us, like it would all come into balance. But it takes sharing information, sharing your journey, standing up for what you believe in, even in the face of criticism, even in the face of someone saying, like someone actually criticized me for saying, and I forgot that I was not surrounded by spiritually awake people. I had said something about having water supply, and she's like, well, what's wrong? The water's fine. And I was like, the water to me is one of the one things that to me needs to be the most protected. And she's like, she's kind of just nonchalant about water, but she doesn't really know the depths of the potential of what could happen over water. Like water could potentially lead to the world's revolution. And this is why, I mean, you probably know about this. This is why there's multi-billionaires out there buying up huge plots of water. And it's kind of, it makes you question things. Well, why are all the people with all the money buying up huge plots of water on this planet? I mean, thank God you can't buy the ocean, but still, like if you're buying a gigantic piece of land with fresh water supply, and you're, I don't know, Nestle is a company owning it, there's a problem there. Like there's a potential. I mean, this is one of the reasons I moved up to where I live, is to own my own slight little piece of water supply, but then, you know, and also be able to share it. You know, it's like I don't own it, I'm just caretaker. But yeah, water is a really interesting issue. Like someone of my friends with actually wanted to start a water, and I actually, God, Claudiu, maybe you could be the one to do this. I would write for you for free. But he approached me years ago about starting a whole entire like blog website about water, because I think this is actually a very important discussion. And, you know, I've said it for years, but to me, like, I think just getting the word out about the sacredness of water is so important. So yeah. Thank you for bringing it up. I should really read your book. I'm scared to.
In fact, I co-host a podcast about water and environment. It's called ageofwater.ca. So with my dear friend Nina Montano, we discuss these issues with authors and scientists and even financial people who are involved in, you know, purchasing water rights and yeah, it's a pretty sensitive issue. I mean, there is worldwide unrest because of water resources, and especially in Africa. And what you said is coming. And I know we create our own reality, and I don't necessarily like to write about this type of potential problems. But again, in the sequel to Water Entanglement, which is called Crystal Cloud, what I write about that in 2055, okay? And it's happening now. So it's pretty scary, even for me, to see how fast we go down the slope unless we take some measures and we go back into that balance you mentioned, balance inside, within and without, you know? So that's very important to wake ourselves up to that type of balance.
Yeah, I think sharing, you know, it's interesting. I should read your book, but even when I read the premise, I was like, oh gosh, I already know. Because I've, you know, a lot of us know that this is something, I mean, there's so much in danger. It's like, it's not just earth and landfills and, you know, natural resources everywhere. It's like everything, you know, all the natural resources are out of balance. But it's, you know, it scares me and it upsets me. But I think the more people discuss it and share about it and do prayers and like publicly, you know, talk about like you know, I've taught this to people, I've showed it to friends, you know, people who think I'm weird, and I'm like, whatever, you know, like I have a thing, like I have a water system, and then I keep this water jug I have this whole thing going, even though I have beautiful reverse osmosis water from a well, but I have this whole gratitude thing with water. And, you know, I think it's so important. I teach this to my clients. I'm like, you guys want to make more money? You want more clients? Start praying when you drink water. Like, it's so simple. And I think it's actually a very important message for people to get out. And thank God a lot of medicine people sing beautiful water songs, but yeah, it's interesting times. I don't know if I want to see that, but I think if we keep praying, we can shift it. That's I think. Yeah. I hope.
For sure. Beth, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, this has been really amazing, and I'm glad you're doing this. I think these conversations right now, especially right now, are so important for people to start hearing, to understand, you know, like they're not alone on their path, that there's other people who've gone through the ups and downs, and the spiritual awakening path, you know, as beautiful as it is, it's definitely beautiful. It can be really challenging at times, you know, like to me, I've said it, sometimes it was, you know, it's a lot easier to just be asleep, but you know, once you're awake, you can't fall back asleep. And, you know, the more you hear, you know, this kind of discussion, the more you realize like, okay, everything's actually going to be okay. Like, even if we are in a water war, you know, like even right now, coronavirus, it's been a roller coaster for everybody. And I'm like, you know what? There's so much beauty that's going to come out of it. I mean, we all know that. I think everybody intuitively knows, damn man, this is going to be hard. It's also going to be beautiful. It's like, again, it's like, you have to have the dark with the light, but I do believe, you know, the light will always prevail, and then it's going to be more of, you know, the shift. And so there's a way to see this, but I think just having these conversations and turning to people for support and, you know, just sharing yourself fully and not being afraid, especially now, it's like, to me, having your voice heard, like I do believe in spiritual activism, and I believe just this kind of work and sharing, like if you watch this, go talk to someone about it, share it around, because this is what's going to change the world. Like, this is the gift. So
yes, I mean, from my perspective, I've been so alive in these last 2 months and so creative. I just can't believe it. So I don't want for, you know, the lockdown to continue, but at the same time, I was able to take advantage of this time to you know, calm down and go more inside and create more. So, Beth, thank you very much. All the best. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.